All right, everyone. I am super excited to introduce our second speaker of the night. So our second speaker is named Katherine Gaskin, and she is a creative and she's an entrepreneur. She is the founder of the Content Planner and also the Salty Pineapple, very fun brand that she'll tell you about. But 3 fun facts that you might not know about Katherine is that she's never eaten a Big Mac. She created the quote, "Be a pineapple, stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside." And she lived in Australia. Katherine, come on up here and share your fuck up.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to thank you all for being here because you could literally be anywhere else in the world right now, but you're here to listen to me tell you about my biggest fuck up in my entire life. So thank you. Thank you to Marsha. Thank you to the Fuckup Nights Toronto team. This is actually my very first Fuckup Nights, so the bar is, pretty low for me right now. And thank you to Slack and all the sponsors. And again, thank you for being here. Your time means a lot to me, and to be able to share this story with you. I've actually never spoken about this before in such a public setting in front of a large group of strangers. I've never posted about it on social. I've never talked about it in an interview, but it is such an integral part of my business and how I got started. So here goes nothing. I'm Kat Gaskin, founder of Salty Pineapple, which is essentially the Sasha Fierce to my Beyonce. It's like my alter ego. It's where I have fun. I'm creative. It's where I play. It's where I initially started out in freelance graphic design. And then the Content Planner is my e-commerce business, which is a physical planner for your blog and social media content. It is actually the first and only one of its kind, and it is something that I created because for me, when I was blogging and doing content creation, shooting photos, trying to build up my Instagram, there wasn't a physical space where I could actually write down my content marketing strategy. And like Pollyanna said, I created that opportunity for myself. I went on Google and I said, oh, I would love a planner that does something like this. Let me go buy one. And I couldn't find one. So I fucking made it. And now it's here. And before I get into the next slide, like I said before, this is something that I've never shared. And even when Marsha asked me to share this, I wasn't even going to talk about it. I have so many other fuck ups that I could talk about, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you have zero experience. I actually have no experience or education in e-commerce or marketing or business. By trade, I'm a graphic designer. So my biggest fuck up in my entire life, oh wait, that's me sitting in a pool with pineapples and that's me holding a planner. My biggest fuck up is that I fucked up my marriage. A lot of people don't know this, but I was married. And I was with my high school sweetheart. He was my first love, my first everything. We had the house, we had a dog, we had a cat, we had 3 bedrooms, and everyone thought we were like the perfect couple and that we were so happy all the time. And we were together for 7 years. 7 years, boyfriend, girlfriend. It felt great. We were the best of friends. We were so comfortable with each other. And we eventually grew apart. I quit my job in 2012. We had gotten married in 2011. And I decided to pursue this freelance life. That initial decision of me quitting my job happened at University in Dundas at the College of Physiotherapists. I was working at the College of Physiotherapists. I know nothing about physiotherapy. I like pineapples and Hawaii and sunsets. Like, what was I doing there? I don't know. But at the time, I graduated university and I wanted that full-time job. I wanted that salary. I was making $40,000 a year, wearing my big girl clothes, taking the GO train in from Scarborough, and I thought I was living my best life. But enter Instagram, and I was able to see everyone's highlight reels, seeing them travel and live their life, and not be at a desk where I was sitting. So it clicked for me, and I said, what the fuck am I sitting here? My creativity is being so stifled. Why am I not out there living my life doing freelance? Because while I was working full-time, I was also doing freelance secretly. Like, who here has like a side hustle or a freelance business, works for themselves? Wow. How many people work for a company? Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. Don't think that I don't love like corporate jobs. Believe me, I love them. Entrepreneur life, as Pollyanna said, it's not for everyone. It's really, really challenging, and you question yourself every day. So mad respect to both parties. But I had that moment, and I saved and I planned for a year and a half until I finally took that big leap into full-time salty pineapple life. And again, had the house. Everyone thought I was so happy. But after a while, when you're with someone for so long and you don't have those important conversations of, are we still in love? Like, you're a different person to me now. Like, we've grown beside each other, but have we grown with each other? And we just never had those conversations. I know that we became complacent, and we became very comfortable with each other. And especially when your families are so intermingled and there's so much love, you just think, oh, I'm just gonna be with this person for the rest of my life. And 3 years later, when I was 3 years into salty pineapple, and we were 4 years into being married. It was just that moment of, why are we still together? What are we doing? Like, are we even right for each other? And my life literally completely shattered, because for me, my parents are Catholic. They were born in Guyana, so they're very traditional Catholics, like that Caribbean culture. Like, you don't get divorced. Divorce is not in their vocabulary. I never honestly thought that it's not really a title, but I never thought that word would be in my vocabulary, divorced. Like, owning that. Even saying it now, making this slide right here, I was like, oh my God, I'm writing divorced. This is so weird. Because it still sits with you. When you fuck something up really big, like, it's with you for the rest of your life. It's never gonna be something that I'm just gonna tell a stranger or show up on social media about. It's always there. And I'm not saying that it's painful or that I'm ashamed of it, but it's somewhere inside. And we decided it was a mutual separation. Luckily, it was all very cordial, and we completely understood, we needed to go in different directions. But I was devastated. It was something that I knew needed to happen, but I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm very into my emotions. And I didn't want to let my parents down. Like, telling them, that was the hardest thing, because they had no clue. They didn't know that me and my partner we'd grown apart so much. And my ex was also going through some mental health stuff, and I didn't know how to handle that. I'm such an optimistic, positive person, and that would have been in like let's say between 2013 to 2015. The conversation around mental health was not happening then. So whenever he would like sit on the couch and just stare at the wall, or just be on his phone for hours and hours, or he would be really like temperamental or angry, like, I didn't understand how to take that. And so me, looking back, I wish that I would have prepared myself more with, how can I support a partner that has mental health issues? But instead, I was saying all the wrong things. I would say, oh, why don't you just like look at the bright side? That's like the last thing you're supposed to say to someone. Or why don't you just like go on a walk? Who wants to go on a fucking walk when you're going through mental health problems? Or, oh, why don't you just, be optimistic, like everything will work out? Like, those were the things that I was saying to him. And now looking back, I was like, wow, I was so wrong. Like, I wasn't showing up for him as a partner. And that continued for years. That continued for, like the 2 years that I said. And that's how I fucked it all up. Like Marcia said, women also like to internalize things. So when the separation did happen, I thought it was all my fault. I took 100% responsibility, and it crushed me. By the way, I was also still working and trying to build up my freelance career as a graphic designer. And to give you an idea of what I was trying to design at the time, when my whole entire world was falling apart and I was selling our house, I had to say like goodbye to the dog, and then I took the cat, and then I had to move back to my parents' house. This is what I was designing. Content that said, beach waves, hairspray. How was I able to teach people why it's awesome to be a 20-something when I was literally like, oh my God, being 20-something sucks. And my feed, I continued being consistent because like clockwork, every day on my own personal account, this is my Salty Pineapple account, I was posting. I loved sharing photos with my community. It was very colorful and bright and tropical. It brought people joy. But behind the scenes, I was a complete mess. And sharing content like this, when you don't feel in the flow with it and you don't feel authentic, I felt like such a fake. I felt like, why am I doing this to myself? This is so hard. It was, to even describe the feeling of trying to make something look like this and going through one of the most traumatic times in your life and everything is falling apart, it's indescribable. And I was also, at the time, going to therapy to figure out this entire situation. I'd never gone to therapy before. I thought I was always the strong one. Like, your parents always tell you, yeah, you're strong. Like, you can be there for your partner. You're so strong-minded. You're so confident. You're so well-spoken. But I wasn't strong. I needed help. And that was one of the big learning lessons that I learned fucking up my marriage is whenever you're weak and something isn't right in your life or with yourself, like, you have to speak up. You have to tell your family or your friends, because if not, the only person it's affecting is yourself. And I remember specifically when I was trying to post something to Instagram, it was so forced. And literally the only thing that I could design was this next image. Like, it was the darkest thing I had ever created. I've never done a black and white photo. I don't even wear black and white. I don't even wear black. I don't wear gray. I love colors, and that was such a dark time where for 3 years, every single day, I was posting colors and tropical photos and sunsets, and then that one time, this is all that was like coming out of me. And I lost myself when the separation happened. That was in March. So we decided in January to actually separate. We were trying to, figure it out. Maybe there was something to salvage. And then in March, that's when the official separation happened. I also decided to sell the house on my own because apparently I'm a real estate agent. Because as if I didn't have any more things on my plate to run my business, to keep myself together, and also sell my house with people coming in and I'm like talking to them about the bathrooms and like, oh, I love the light in like the hallway. It was really fucked up. I don't even know why I did that. But during the time, like, you do some crazy things. And I realized that I had just completely lost myself. So I did what any other 20-something woman would do. I went to Australia. And I moved across the world, and I decided that in that moment, and this is something me and my ex promised each other, is we promised each other that we would pursue the lives that we actually wanted to live separately, out of respect, because why would you go through all of that turmoil just to live another life that you didn't feel authentic in or that you felt so fake in? And so I went to literally my dream destinations, and separation happened in March. We closed the house in June, and I left in October. And this was a route I had been dreaming of for like 3-4 years, and I never knew how I could make it happen. And it just so happens that when you ask for something, God has funny ways of showing you how to get there. Like, I would never have gone on this trip if my marriage didn't end. So I went to Hawaii, and then I went to Fiji. I went to Australia. I lived there. I met some incredible people. I went to Bali. I went to the Maldives. And work was going really, really well. I was getting a ton of brands that I was shooting with. I was able to get content from all of these tropical places. And I truly felt like I was able to rebuild myself through travel. People always ask me, especially, younger girls and younger women, they're like, what is your one piece of advice? I'm like, go on a solo travel trip. How many of you have gone on a solo travel trip? Oh, damn. That's impressive. And if you haven't, book the flight, go, even if it's at the Four Seasons in Yorkville for a weekend, because some people are really scared to be by themselves. Just go for a weekend. You'll learn so much about yourself, more than anyone can ever tell you, more than that podcast is gonna tell you, more than that YouTube video. No one is gonna tell you more about yourself than yourself. But I find that as women, we're so busy trying to consume all this content from other people, telling us who we are, that we don't take enough time to listen to what's happening inside of us, inside of our brains, inside of our hearts, inside of our souls. And this trip completely changed me. Like I said, pretending you're okay, it's only hurting yourself. When I went through the separation and when I told my parents, that was heart-wrenching. Even my mom, if I mention it to her, she still cries, I still cry, it's a whole thing. And now, looking back, I know now that I have to speak up. I know now that when I'm hurting and when I'm not okay, I have to set a boundary. And especially for, everyone in this room and women, it's not easy to set boundaries because you're there for everyone. You're the nurturer, you're the caregiver, you're the mom, the daughter, the sister, the entrepreneur, the CEO. So you kind of forget about those boundaries, and you forget sometimes that you're even okay. You forget to check in with yourself. So this is your reminder. Stop pretending that you're okay, because the only person that it's hurting is yourself. Being strong also means accepting your weaknesses. So going back to my last point, the only way that I was able to rise from that and say, I think I should go to therapy, I think I need to go on this trip, I think I need to spend time with my family more, is because I realized I wasn't strong anymore. I wasn't strong enough. And you don't always have to be strong enough. You don't always have to be the strongest person in the room. So if you can accept your weaknesses, and this applies to running your own business. When you run your own business, you get to know your weaknesses really, really well. They amplify. For example, I'm not a confrontational person. So I hired someone to be confrontational for me because it was costing my money. It was costing my business money. Last year, so my product ships from overseas, and you have to essentially hire someone to receive the package for you. And it was an American trucking company, probably 95% male. And I had to get on the phone with them because they told me that they couldn't deliver my big planner shipment. And so I had to get on the phone and act like I knew what I was talking about when it came to trucking deliveries, freight forwarding, customs, duties. I'm a graphic designer. Okay, I was on YouTube while talking to him, being I think this is what you need to do. And I could already tell, because I was a woman and because I sound the way I sound, he wasn't having it. He was ready to charge me more money to re-deliver it. It was $2,000 US, which for someone has no debt and self-funded my entire business, that is a lot of money for me. And so I just hired that because I knew I hired that person out. I hired someone who's a lawyer, and her job is literally to go around and give people shit. And I love it because it gives me the space to be nice and joyful and happy and empower people and just be helpful. And it's just such a relief. But if you don't know that you're that weak, you're not able to either strengthen that weakness or hire it out or know that you need to work on something. Like both of the ladies said, fucking up is the only way that I could learn about myself. I would never go back and change those 11 years that I was with my ex. And I learned so much about myself traveling for those 8 months. I eventually came back to Toronto because I miss my mom and my dad. But during those 8 months, you really get to know who you are when you're in a room full of strangers. And there's no expectation. There's no There's no expectation for you to answer a question a certain way or act a certain way. I was able to rebuild myself because I had completely broken down. But if I didn't fuck up my marriage and if I didn't show up as the right partner, we probably would still be together. I would probably have a few of his children and just regret everything. So looking back, like, yeah, right. Even looking back now, I would never want to have kids with this person because he's totally different now. He's a totally different individual. He's not the person that I initially married. But I would never have learned that if the marriage didn't fuck itself up. I think when you're in such a disastrous moment and you honestly feel like the world is crumbling before you, you think this is it. This is the end. I'm never going to get another chance. But I'm here to remind you that life will always, always, always give you another chance. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really challenging to stick through. Some days you're not even going to want to get out of bed, or you're not going to want to do work. And you're going to have clients emailing you saying, where's the content? Where's all your blog posts? What are you doing? Like, what's happening? I don't want to pay you. I'm going to fire you. Like, that is going to happen sometimes when you fuck up in life. But you will rise. Life will give you another chance. It will always give you another chance. And that is like the one thing that I want you to remember. That's it.
Kat, thank you so much for sharing that story.
Did it. That was
you did it. Some really great lessons there, I think, when it comes to your personal life, but also how that intersects with your business. So thank you for sharing. And let's open it up to some Q&A for Kat.
Questions?
What is your relationship with mental health? You talked in detail about your partner, but I'd love to know what your relationship is with mental health today.
Yeah, so Pollyanna asked, what is my personal relationship with mental health? And I honestly have to say that it's great. I love my brain. I love my mind. I love the way I think. But it's a constant daily challenge where I'm very protective of the thoughts that go in my head, because your brain is like a garden, right? And if you keep on giving your garden poison, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to eat fruits and vegetables and see the flowers. So whenever people come to me with like either their negative energy or like toxic relationships, like I'm so protective of that. And it's a work in progress. Every day, it's like, okay, what thoughts am I going to choose today that are going to help me get to where I want to be? Because I'm not here to be basic or average. Like, I'm here to live my best life. I'm here to be the greatest version of myself. And that only happened because I quit my job. And I was able to really discover who I was and realize, like, wow, God gave me so many unique talents. Like, each and every person in this room, we all think differently. The chances of you being you are 1 to I think it's to the power of 40 billion. So if you think like, oh, my business idea isn't original, or someone's just going to copy me and like do something like me anyway, they're not. They're really not. But you have to be really protective and set boundaries about what kind of content you're consuming on a daily basis. And you really have to, like, you know, fertilize your garden. I know that sounds really bad. Yeah. Yes. And also say your name, please.
Hi, my name is Rosie. Thank you for an amazing presentation. So, you know, when you were speaking to that black and white photo and how prior to that you were posting really colorful photos, but you just didn't feel that like those photos were representing how you actually felt in that moment, what sort of motivated you to keep going? Because I know personally when I'm just not feeling like posting, I don't post. And it's just to keep up with the consistency is really challenging. So I was just wondering what sort of motivated you to keep going?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Rosie asked, when you're not feeling in the flow or you're not feeling authentic with your content, especially on Instagram and social media, how do you stay consistent and still post to your community? And it wasn't easy. I had to force myself. Like this saying, fake it till you make it, is so true in that moment. And I knew that, okay, yes, I'm going through this personally, but there's someone else who needs to see my content. There's someone else that needs to see this photo of a sunset. Or if I share this, maybe a brand is gonna DM me, or maybe they're gonna wanna work with me. And that makes me so much happier, and that will add to my happiness. Like, from what I've heard and like speaking to my community every day, there's this like toxic mindset around social media where we think it's out to get us, or we think that it's so much work and that it's not a priority and that it's like sucking the life out of us. But I've essentially switched that mindset to say, wow, I have this free platform that I can show up on, and I can reach hundreds of thousands of women that need to hear about my product and my business. And I'm able to do that for free instantly, just with content. And that's how the sales come in. That's how the followers come in. That's how you get likes and comments and all that bullshit. Like, we need to let that go, because essentially social media and being consistent, the only way you can do that is if you know that your purpose is to show people what you can do and how you can help them.
Do one last question just to stay on track with time.
Hi, Kat.
Hi.
I'm Sarah, and I really thought your point was interesting about developing your weaknesses or hiring them out. And I wonder about that point, because we can spend years trying to develop our weaknesses and so focused on that. At what point do we say we are fine the way we are and we just gotta ask for support? Like, did you struggle with the conflict management thing for a while, or?
Yes. So Sarah's question was, when do you know it's the right time to switch from, okay, I'm going to work on this weakness, to, I don't have time for this anymore, I need to run my business or get on with my life? When do you know it's the right time to switch? Which I think is such a great question. And my answer is, you feel it. Like, you feel it inside. It's your gut, it's your intuition. And I did struggle with conflict resolution for a very long time. And I'm here to say, for the record, you don't have to struggle all the time. You don't have to struggle every day of your life, every hour, every minute. Once you kind of switch that mindset into everything comes to me, everything flows so easy, like Pollyanna said, that's an abundance mindset. You're putting that out there thinking, sure, this is my weakness. But as soon, and I don't even know how to explain this, but as soon as I made that mental switch, I met the girl, or the woman that I hired to deal with my conflicts. I met her like a month later, but I put it out into the universe. Like, I tweeted it. I was like, does anybody know someone who is like confrontational and who can help me with my business manufacturing? And I literally met, her name was Sarah. I met Sarah in a car at a conference that I was speaking at in Calgary. So there's really never a right time. It's important to, again, be self-aware and sit with yourself and think, do I want to continue feeling like this? Do I want to continue struggling? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel, or am I just doing this because I like harming myself? You know, it is hard. It's hard to say, yeah, it's going to take you a few months to like struggle through things. Like, there's no magic timeline for anything. Everyone's journey is very, very different. But for me, the switch was, I just don't want to do it anymore. Like, I want to love my job. I want to love what I do. And this wasn't playing to my strengths.